happened again. Joe Burrow is hurt and will miss at minimum 3 months because of a toe surgery. This is his 6th different injury since getting drafted by the Bengals. So far, he's missed 14 total games in his career, and it's fair to assume that the lack of a competent offensive line has been a big reason why. Burrow went down in the second quarter against the Jaguars on Sunday after getting sacked by Eric Armstead. He came up limping and had to get help to the locker room after initially trying to walk off by himself. Burrow was seen in a walking boot and on crutches after the game, which made it pretty clear that it wasn't good. It ended up being a grade 3 turf toe injury, which means a complete tear of the ligaments and potentially the dislocation of the joint of his big toe. Turf toe is actually a brutal injury. It doesn't sound like a crazy big deal injury, but it is. It's truly a brutal end of the season for Burrow, who really just hasn't been able to stay on the field since getting drafted. Injuries and a lack of a supporting cast have been the story of Joe Burrow's career. He was the first overall pick coming out of LSU in 2020, fresh off of winning the Heisman and winning the national championship. He started week 1 as a rookie and was impressive as a rookie with some amazing flashes, but he didn't last too long. In week 11 against Washington, he tore his ACL and MCL and missed the rest of the year. He was just 2-7-1 before getting hurt, and the Bengals ended up 4-11 as a whole, finishing last in their division. Burrow finished with a 65.3 completion percentage with 2,688 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, plus 3 rushing touchdowns. Now, things haven't been the same in Cincinnati ever since, because 2021 was a magical season. Burrow led the Bengals to a 10-7 record and went 10-6 starting. And then the Bengals got hot. They knocked off the Raiders in the wild card and top-seeded Titans in the divisional before winning a thriller against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, a game where they came back from 21-3 to win 27-24. But Cincinnati couldn't finish the job. Burrow was sacked 7 times in the Super Bowl and threw for 263 yards with a touchdown and a tight 23-20 loss. It was disappointing, but he and the Bengals had beaten every expectation. Burrow led the league with a 70.4 completion percentage and threw for 4,611 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions, and rushed for 2 touchdowns. He was named the Comeback Player of the Year. It was a successful season, even despite some injuries for Burrow. He suffered a dislocated pinky and an MCL sprain in the Super Bowl. The Bengals were expected to come back strong, and they did just that. They ended up going 12-4, matching a franchise best record. The Bengals beat the Ravens in the wild card and the Bills in the divisional to set up a rematch against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. But this time, they didn't have the same good fortune. The Chiefs ended up hitting a late field goal to win 23-20. Burrow stayed healthy and had a good season because of it. 68.3 completion percentage, 4,475 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 picks, and 5 rushing touchdowns. And after the season, he made his first ever Pro Bowl. Now, 2023, though, was full of injuries for Burrow after cashing in on that 5-year, $275 million extension. He was playing through a calf injury and then missed 7 games with a wrist injury that he suffered in week 11. The Bengals ended up dropping to 9-8 with Jake Browning starting most of the season, but they weren't exactly playing well even before Burrow went down. He was 5-5 starting and completed 66.8% of his passes for 2,309 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. He came back healthy and then last year lit it up statistically and was the Comeback Player of the Year again and made his 2nd Pro Bowl. Now, that comes with a caveat. Cincinnati's defense was awful, and it resulted in Burrow having to throw it a ton. It definitely helped prop up his stats. He completed 70.6% of his passes and led the league with 4,918 yards and 43 touchdowns. Not to mention, he only had 9 picks and rushed for 2 touchdowns. That brings us to this season, where the Bengals came into this season still looking to reach those same heights as that Super Bowl appearance that ended up being short-lived. In week 1, the Bengals had to go on the road and play the Browns. Not exactly a team that anybody expected to be good, but for some reason, Cincinnati has struggled against Cleveland. And that was the same for the offense, who struggled a good bit. The Bengals offense did struggle a good bit, but they ended up getting it done. Burrow was just 14 of 23 for 113 yards and a touchdown. The top receiver was T. Higgins with a very underwhelming 3 catches for 33 yards. Chase Brown only had 21 carries for 43 yards. Those numbers just aren't ideal. The Bengals started the scoring with a Chase Brown touchdown to go up 7-0, and then Noah Fant caught a touchdown to make it 14-7. The only other points Cincinnati scored was a 35-yard Evan McPherson field goal with about 2:48 left in the third quarter that ultimately ended up being the game winner. The Bengals got lucky. It really came down to new Browns kicker Andre Schmidt missing a field goal and an extra point in the second half to lose 17-16. The Bengals barely won. Then Cincinnati played the Jaguars at home, where Burrow got hurt in the first half. He left the game with a toe injury and didn't return. He ended up needing help to the locker room and later had a boot on and was on crutches. It's going to be called a wasted season with Burrow out, and it came after a pretty underwhelming game. Burrow got hurt on a drive with the Bengals down 14-7, and then they punted. When he had left the game, he'd thrown a touchdown to Jamar Chase and was 7 of 13 for 76 yards with a touchdown. Browning came into the game, and Cincinnati went on to win despite him throwing 3 interceptions. McPherson hit a field goal, and Browning threw touchdowns to Michael Tinsley, who, by the way, had a crazy grab, and to T. Higgins that tied the game in the third quarter. Browning scored with just 18 seconds left for a 31-27 Bengals win. Now, Browning wasn't great, 21 of 32, 241 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then those pretty ugly 3 picks. Luckily for them, Jamar Chase just went off. He had 14 catches for 165 yards and a touchdown, and then Chase Brown rushed 16 times for 47 yards. The Bengals truly do need to figure out a backup plan at quarterback, unless they do just want to run it back with Browning like in 2023. I think Malik Willis would make a ton of sense from the Packers, but that would suck if then Jordan Love got hurt. It really does suck just for another tough end for Burrow. But this is just how it goes, the same way that his stats were incredible because he was always on the field losing a game. The defense has been awful because they really haven't invested. Look at Trey Hendrickson. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league, but he's on a 1-year, $29 million deal because they won't or can't sign him long term. Instead, Jamar Chase got a 4-year, $161 million deal, and T. Higgins got extended on a 4-year, $115 million extension. The Bengals, simply put, have invested wrong, but I don't think that's exactly why Burrow keeps getting hurt. It's been all kinds of different injuries, and they have tried to fix the line. Orlando Brown Jr. is on a 4-year, $64 million deal from 2023, but even that hasn't been enough work on that line. It's no secret that Joe Burrow has struggled with the lack of pieces around him and that it's hurt him in a big way. No, I'm not talking about wide receivers. Frankly, at this point, it's hard to not compare him to, well, Andrew Luck. Dan Orlovsky compared Burrow to Luck, and it's not hard to see why. There are a ton of parallels. Luck played 7 seasons. He was healthy for his first 3, and then it took a bad turn. He suffered a sprained shoulder and a lacerated kidney with a partially torn abdominal muscle in 2015, and then there was reports of torn cartilage after the year. In 2016, he had a concussion and then had shoulder surgery after the season because of an issue, and then in 2017, he landed on IR and didn't play, all because of shoulder rehab. He returned to play in 2018, and then after the season, he suffered a calf strain that was ultimately the final straw, and he decided to shockingly retire. Joe Burrow turns 29 in December and is in his 6th season in the league. Luck was 29 when he retired after 6 seasons. There are a lot of similarities. Luck was contacted 828 times, Burrow 634 times. There was a 21% contact percentage for Luck and 20% for Burrow. Luck was sacked 174 times, Burrow was sacked 201 times. Luck pressured 28% of the time, Burrow 27. Now, it's probably worth noting that the NFL is much softer now than it ever was, and a lot of the hits that Luck took back in the day, you can't even have anymore. The way the roughing the passer penalties are now is very different, and not even being able to put your weight on the quarterback on a sack matters a lot. It's truly a different era, but it makes it even more concerning for Burrow. His injuries have truly been freak. It's his wrist, finger, knee, calf, toe. It's really everything, and not even contact injuries at times. It's concerning, and while I doubt Joe Burrow is going anywhere and his peak was much higher than Luck's ever was, it's not hard to compare. The Bengals need to fix the situation around Burrow, or his career is going to go down the same unfortunate path because of injuries and bad franchise management.